Pentacle, Chapter 12, Seven of Swords. It's Lovers Pentacle 2. Kain served dinner to both men, and Alessia dug up the sake to go with the meal, and it was an acquired taste. And during dinner, Alessia asked a pertinent question: "Why aren't you with Eugenia?" "She was far too busy cheating on me with Santiago, so to have time for me," said Kain, assuming the words. "Not that I mind or even care. She is free to do with her body whatever she pleases, and what I do mind is that our dates always have to happen whenever she feels like it. And if I show up to her house unannounced, she makes me feel unwelcome or she tells me to leave." "If she's so disinterested in you, dump her," said Byron dryly. "A pretty guy like you can do better. You can do much better." Kain pulled out his hair and he gave a low moan before saying, "I hate the dating scene. Meeting new people is so annoying, and getting a new girlfriend is a huge time and monetary investment that I just don't want to deal with. Eugenia doesn't need anything from me, and with other women I practically had to go bankrupt myself to earn the right to a second date." "Cheap, cheap," said Alexia, laughing. "And you wonder why Eugenia rarely gives you the time of day, and she may not need anything from you, Kain, but it wouldn't kill you to give her an expensive, sentimental bauble. Women gauge men's interest based on how expensive is the tribute they offer." Kain vented over everything he hated about the dating scene and his current situation with Eugenia, and Byron sat there like a statue while he memorized everything. And once it was close to bedtime, Kain returned home, and he lay down on the bed while he thought of Eugenia. And he opened the top drawer of his nightstand and he brought out a photograph of his grandpa, Raphael. "I just don't know what to do, Grandpa," said Kain. "Find yourself another," said Raphael's portrait. The portrait wasn't truly talking, rather Kain was imagining what his grandpa would say. "A drug addict like Eugenia is nothing but trouble. Everyone is an addict these days, Grandpa," said Kain, sighing. Just because the entire world has gone mad doesn't mean that you should lose your head, grandson," said Raphael. "Mate with Eugenia whenever the opportunity arises, and in the meantime find yourself a woman who wants to commit to you." "And not with Eugenia because of her body, Grandpa," protested Kain. "Could have fooled me, and why ever would you give your hearts to a vain creature that is incapable of loving you?" retorted Raphael. "Eugenia isn't as the heartless creature you think she is, Grandpa. She's the kindest, sweetest woman I ever met. And when we are together, everything is alright in my world, and my only problem is that she wants her space while I want to spend all my free time with her," said Kain. "It doesn't do well to be so emotionally dependent on another human being," said Raphael. "We are born alone and we die alone. Learn to live by yourself, Kain." "Anna and Hannah were born together, Grandpa," protested Kain. When we are born, we come out of our mother's vagina. The doctor and all of the nurses are there to receive you, so technically speaking, it is impossible for a human to be born alone." "Am I interrupting?" asked Jack, entering Kain's bedroom. Jack sighed with relief when he thought that it was Kain talking to a photograph. For a moment, Jack had fancied that his father had come back from beyond the grave. Kain had done a perfect mimicry of the voice of his dead grandpa, Raphael. Jack wanted to comment on what his son was doing, but he felt that he didn't have a right to judge. Jack used to talk to himself whenever he lived alone. If Kain was talking to himself, Jack probably figured that his son was lonely. Jack turned his son on his back before lifting his shirt, and with his long nails he started to caress his back. And when Kain was a wee little toddler, Jack used to do this to get the little kid to fall asleep immediately. Kain smiled happily, and he quickly fell asleep. And the following morning came, and during breakfast, father and son gossiped. "I stopped by Alicia's home yesterday," said Kain, "and the guy's dating his boss." "That is a bad idea," protested Jack. "Those types of relationships with uneven power dynamics never end well." "That isn't always true. Uncle Gant married a secretary." "Stacy wasn't his secretary," said Jack, "and that is an invalid example." "Oh, I know. Unla married her professor, and the The two lived happily ever after, at least until he got sick and died, said Kain, struggling to find an example of a relationship with uneven power dynamics that actually worked out well for both parties. The two started dating years after Unlike graduated, so it doesn't count, said Jack. Well, then I got nothing. I hope this no relationship works out for Alexia, said Kain before eating the last bite of his pancake. He's a good friend and he deserves to find happiness. Kain drove to his father's work before going to his own place, and when he entered within, all of his co-workers were staring at him. And when Farley passed by, the old guy made a weeping sound before laughing. And just when Kain thought he had earned the respect of his co-workers, it seemed as if he was back to square one. He sighed with frustration and he put on his headset to get to work. And a folder was dropped in front of his desk with the word urgent on top of it. Kain opened the folder and he found inside the printout of an online article, and when he read the article he understood why all of his co-workers were laughing at him. It was an almost verbatim transcription of all of the petty complaints he had given to Alexia about his girlfriend. The article even had Alexia's name, so he was probably standing by the gossip he wrote. Some of the details are a little off here and there, but everything written there is true, said Kain, confirming the gossip. You must be either desperate or stupid to be with a woman that openly cheats on you, said protested Farley. I only got her cheating on me once, and we have broken up a few hours ago, so it doesn't count, said Kain. Of course it doesn't, said Siddhartha, joining the conversation. After a breakup, you are free to do whatever you want, and your ex-lover isn't allowed to be jealous. That is easier said than done, Siddhartha, commented Farley. In my book, what Eugenia did counts as cheating, and the fact that she spends more time with her ex-boyfriend only further highlights the fact that you are not the most important person in her life. The taxpayers do not pay us to gossip, and get back to work, all of you, said Kain, restoring order. The warden progressed at a leisurely pace, and after drawing 4 hours, Kain was bored beyond tears. And he went to his uncle to ask for permission to go help in the soup kitchen, and this would help foster goodwill between police officers and the homeless population. Kain didn't show any opposition to this idea, for he knew that Kain only asked to go there whenever he was bored. And he fancied that he should have sent Kain to culinary school. Cooking was the one activity that Kain could easily do 4 hours without getting bored. He is still young, said Kain, talking to himself. It is not too late for him to make a career change. And there's no reason for him to continue torturing himself with a job he doesn't like. Kain drove up to Camilo's house with the food donations collected by the station, and when he entered the homeless shelter, its residents began to point and laugh as he passed by. If you need a woman, I have a niece that will be more than happy to be your little wife, said a homeless maiden. I think I will pass on that offer, said Kain, putting on the apron. She will probably pretend to like me just to get free room and boarding. A girl's gotta protect her own self-interest, said one of the volunteers. If we are all looking after our own self-interest, homeless shelters like Camilo's house wouldn't exist, protested Kain. Good point, said a different volunteer, but all is fair in love and war. Love shouldn't be a war, protested Kain as he started making the soup. But we don't live in should world, we live in the real world, and in the real world, men and women are in constant battle for supremacy in the relationship, and the partner who treats his lover with civility ends up becoming the doormat. Kain spent the rest of his work shift cooking and feeding the homeless, and when there was nobody to talking to him, he would mumble underneath his breath, and the soup he ended up serving was a little salty with his tears. Kain is such a nice young man, and why doesn't that Eugenia chick like him as a volunteer? He is probably smart where it counts, said a gossiping old hag. I had seen him pee before, whispered a homeless man. Trust me, he isn't small. He mustn't know how to use this then, said a different volunteer, and it's a fix for a woman who has the patience to train her man to do the things she likes. The moment he leaves the rich beach, you should take him, suggested the old hag. Police officers get paid pension and free health insurance, and he probably already has a house, and he's good looking. If I wasn't so old and withered, I would be chasing after that type behind. Kain finished his volunteer time, and he looked at his cell phone, and he noticed a text message from Eugenia. She wanted him to visit her today, or whenever was most convenient. It was time to face the music. Kain groomed himself before putting on the first thing that fell from his closet, and he drove to Eugenia's house. Eunice opened the door for Kain to welcome him inside, and he made his way to Eugenia's bedroom, and when he entered, he frowned when he saw only Santiago. "Kain, welcome, welcome," said Santiago, taking a step back to allow Kain to enter with him. "Eugenia will be with us in a minute." "If she wasn't home, why did she summon me?" protested Kain. "Your guess is as good as mine," said Santiago, shrugging his shoulders. Eugenia was in the panic room watching both men interact. Santiago had convinced Eugenia's friends that Kain was no good for her. As a police officer, Kain represented everything that Santiago hated, and she was hoping that in a neutral setting, Santiago would get to know Kain. Eugenia wanted to integrate Kain to her social circle, and to do that properly, she needed Santiago to lose his irrational fear of cops. Kain was a police officer, but he was one of the good ones. "I can smell it on you," said Kain, drawing closer to Santiago. His harsh accusing whisper deeply unnerved Santiago, and the color left his lips in spite of himself. He said, "I can smell it on you." "I just came back from the gym," said Santiago before flexing his muscles. "My piss must be what you're smelling." "You are the one," whispered Kain. "You are the one who has been giving Eugenia the drugs." "You can't prove that it is me," said Santiago, coughing nervously. "Actually, I can prove that it is you," lied Kain. "We have photographs and video surveillance. The only reason why I haven't arrested you yet is because of the affection I have for Eugenia. I am to get her to clean up her act, and what you're doing to that woman is only making it harder for her." "She's going to get her fix whether I help her or not," said Santiago, admitting his culpability. "If I help her, she won't expose herself to dangerous individuals. Back when my father toured, he sometimes suffered from stage fright. The audience was often rowdy, and if he made a mistake, the band would get pelleted by beer bottles," said Kain. "To cure him of his fear, Salazar gave my father a microdosage of courage. Over time, father needed more and more in order to play, till one day he OD'd. And the other day, Salazar tried to apologize for me for assisting in my father's downgoing. The Christian side of me wants to forgive him, but the little boy who grew up without his father wanted to chew his eyes out. I hope for yours, said Santiago, that you never find yourself in the same position as Salazar. When you give Eugenia her microdosage, she isn't the only person you are hurting." Santiago slow clapped before saying, "And the best actress Oscar goes to Kain." For a moment I almost believe your sob story. "Just because your loser father couldn't handle his shit doesn't mean that the same thing will happen to Eugenia." "You can believe whatever helps you sleep at night, Santiago," said Kain, sitting down on his side of the bed. "Only time will tell whether I am right or not, though I'm not planning to stick around to watch his logical conclusion." "So you're abandoning Eugenia just like that," said Santiago, smiling happily. "Some great boyfriend you turn out to be." "I suffered a lot during my father's downgoing. I'm not going to suffer through that again. This will be your cross to bear, Santiago, and when Eugenia falls, it will be your responsibility to pick out the broken pieces," said Kain before trying to leave Eugenia's room. He frowned when he noticed that the door was locked, and Eunice had locked it from the outside. She wasn't going to allow Kain to leave until he had spoken to her stepdaughter. Eunice was holding onto the key to keep the door from opening, and Kain was the first of Eugenia's boyfriends to actually encourage her to clean up her act. The two were going to stay together forever and ever, whether they wanted to or not. "Eugenia, open the door. This isn't funny," said Kain. "Eugenia is going to be home in less than 5 minutes, said Eunice. Please be patient." "You crazy lady," protested Kain, punching the door. "You can't keep me locked up in your daughter's room until she feels like seeing me." "What's the matter, Kain? Are you afraid of being locked up with the big bad wolf?" asked Santiago, giggling menacingly. Kain reached behind his back to bring out his revolver, and the sardonic smile immediately left Santiago's face, and he turned as pale as a sheet. Kain pointed the gun at the lock before saying, "I am going to shoot the lock, Eunice, if you don't let me out of this room." "Kain, just give her 2 minutes. 1 minute, please be patient," insisted Eunice, trembling, and she had completely forgotten that Kain carried his revolver everywhere he went. "I am warning you, Eunice. On the count of 3, I am shooting the door, and if your hand happens to be there, I will own you 3 fingers," said Kain, removing the safety from his revolver. He aimed the gun at the door before saying, 1, 2, Santiago pounced on Kain before he had a chance to say 3, and the revolver scraped across the marble floor, and when it struck the wall, it fired. The gunshot frightened Eunice, so she opened the door, and Eugenia left her hiding spot before she had a chance to give herself a dose of courage. When the 2 women entered the bedroom, both men were wrestling, and Santiago was physically stronger thanks to his steroids, while Kain was a swifter with more stamina. And Kain struggled at first, but once he was able to break free of Santiago's chokehold, he delivered a dizzy blow with his elbow, and Santiago's nose bled profusely, for he had broken. "Break it up, you two," he said on knees while menacing wielding her sandal. "He started it," protested Kain, pointing to Santiago. "I wasn't about to let this whack job shoot off your fingers, Lady Eunice," protested Santiago. "You shouldn't have locked me up in the first place," protested Kain. "Just because you are rich, this doesn't give you the right to cage me up like an animal." "I had a gunfire. Is anyone hurt?" asked Eugenia. "The only casualty today was this designer shoe," said Kain, picking up his revolver. He removed the bullets from his gun and he placed them in his pocket to avoid any further accidents. Kain handed Eugenia the platform shoe he had that had been pierced by a bullet. Eugenia looked at her shoes and she giggled nervously, and said the platform was clear plastic. She was able to see how deeply the bullet had pierced through it. That's a good place to leave it. Bye-bye and God bless.